My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to do a reaction video on the Kamala Harris interview that she did on Fox News with Bret Baier. So I'm going to have to start and stop this a whole bunch of times because I want to fact check this. I think Kamala Harris will probably do a pretty good job of fact checking it, but she can't spend her whole time doing that because she needs to get her own message out. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to hit start right now.
Pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well,
Let's start with that. This right off the bat is called a bad faith question because the way he's phrasing it, there's no good answer. I'll give you an example of a bad faith question. A typical bad faith question would be did you stop beating your wife? Because if you say no, it means you're still beating her. And if you say yes, it means you're admitting that you have already done that. So you get tagged in either one and you can't answer yes or no. So right now, he's asking the question of how many illegal ones did you just let in? In other words, if you name a number, it makes you fully guilty for what's happened. So let me hit this to start this again.
I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the...
See, right there, again, going back to the bad faith question, he's trying to have her name a number so she can be wrong on something. And I'm going to give you some other numbers a little bit later, but let's continue.
point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehension.
Let's stop it right there again. He's cutting her off so she has no chance to answer. This is typical of what people do. This is not an interview, and it's not even what you would call a debate, because he's not allowing her to speak. So let's continue. Oh, well, let's not continue yet. What he's doing also is forcing her to become aggressive to answer. So in other words, he's going to have to tell him to be quiet or to let her speak. In doing so, and we live in this society now that's, let's be honest about it, it's pretty sexist. When you have a black woman speaking, if she tells this white guy, listen, you need to be quiet, you're not letting me speak, she's going to come across as an angry black woman. And so we can say that he's doing this on purpose or not. Either way, there's still a large amount of the populace that is going to react very negatively towards Kamala Harris if she decides to shut him down.
I'm not finished. We have
So
an
a rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people
that
have
needs
been
to be-
released into the country. And let me just finish, and I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning.
Let me cut this right here because there's so much misinformation just in that. So let's talk about a little bit about this border policy we're saying. She can defend herself, but let me add in this. So if you go to cato.org, which they lean right, meaning that they're going to side with the Republican side most of the time, what they have talked about when they talk about Trump's border policy, they said it did decrease immigration. That's true. However, not the way you think. It decreased legal immigration. Now, part of that is because the way people were seeing that this country was becoming, that they didn't want to come here anymore. And so we have a lot of people from a lot of countries with that they want to further their education. They want to be doctors here. They want to be lawyers here. They decided not to do that because they see the way that we're going. We're going more towards a fascist type of country. And so they were not encouraged to want to get legal status here. So that's true. So immigration did slow down, but legal immigration. So then we talk about, did it reduce illegal immigration? There, it did not. So when we talk about this thing over and over and over again and have all these commercials about what Trump was so great at doing, what he was not great at stopping immigration. We're talking illegal immigration. He wasn't great at doing that. What he was great at doing was talking about brown people. And he was talking about other types of people that he called rapists and everything else. Brett Baer talks about this here, saying that these people came over the border and committed heinous crimes. Nobody is here to say that there were no crimes committed. Like, these things happen all the time. However, if you look at the percentages, the crime rate in the United States has fallen, incredibly so, pretty much on a regular, every single year since about 1992. Now, crime did spike up, but that happened for 2 years during COVID, during Trump's administration, ironically. And it's been tracking down, and in the last year, it's tracked down faster than it ever has under Biden-Harris. So they don't tell you this. So they keep trying to say that the crime rate is this massive thing that just is happening everywhere, and you walk down the street and everybody's going to get raped and murdered. The streets have never been safer. That's the actual truth of it. You can look at FBI stats or anything else that you want to look at that's legitimate. That's what you're going to find. But he's going to push here to find, okay, that there is some level of crime, and they're going to blame it on the current administration. And continuing with that, if you decide to look up, and you can do this anytime you want, and please do, because you can get actual information, what you'll find is the border towns and the border cities actually have lower crime rates on average than any other areas in the United States. Why? Because it turns out that people who walk 1,200 miles to get over the border to start a new life, they don't really want to commit crimes. Actually, the crime rates from first generation or second generation people inside the United States is way higher than it is for a person that is trying to make it here in the United States. So let's leave it at that for now, because I know I could talk more, but I want to go with this interview here.
Beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
And once again, he's still cutting her off.
But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and
in
they
the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
If you're not making $158,000 per year,
Quick commercial.
but you'd like
I don't know how to stop
I
it. Let me
strongly
just hit this
encourage you
skip
to
button here.
start
Maybe that'll
a
do it.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill.
Let me just stop it there. She's doing a good job here of giving you all the details that you would ever know. Now, when you look at Trump's side, he doesn't really give you any details because he's not a detailed guy. Brett Baer is going to, he's on this thing about 6 Democrats were against it. That's a fact. That's true. But that has absolutely nothing to do with what Biden was trying to get through. And by the way, I did another show on this, so I don't want to take time to do it all again here. But the role of a vice president is very minimal. They don't set policy. They do what their boss, the president, tells them to do. They can break a tie. They go and see other dignitaries who've died. They don't do a lot. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to put all this on her. And they can do that because most people are pretty ignorant. Like if you asked people about what Mike Pence did for 4 years with Trump, the answer is like nothing, right? And that's not making fun of him. That's just saying that vice presidents just kind of sit there and they wait to see if the president dies and then they take over. They're not there to do the legislation. That's the president. And so they keep trying to hang this on her. So when they say move forward or turn the page, it's because she hasn't been president, and Trump has been president. Let's move on.
And told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
but actually is focused on fixing
6
it.
Democrats voted against that bill.
We went over that. That has no bearing on anything. And they're showing a picture of 6 of them. Who cares?
Had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to cherry pick a horrible situation for 3 people. And you can do that with anybody. Again, the crime rate is very low in our country right now. And there's much more chance of somebody committing a crime if they are from the United States than if they are trying to get into the United States. They don't want to tell you that. So you can look that up yourself. Those numbers are very easy to find. The other thing that's really interesting when they keep jumping on this is like this being a major issue. I think she did a good job here because the bipartisan border bill was just that, bipartisan. It was written by one of the most conservative Republicans. That thing was supposed to be passed a long time ago. But what happened? Now, you can't really make any other argument or excuse. If you're Donald Trump and you're supporting Donald Trump and he says, kill the border bill, you already know he doesn't care about that issue. He just cares about winning an election. What is the number one reason why he wants to win the election? Because he doesn't want to go to jail, most likely. He doesn't want to be in court. The Supreme Court already said that if you're president, then you're immune to all of these things that he's in trouble for. And if you don't believe that, that's fine. But the issue here is that he killed the bipartisan border bill. Therefore, if Trump was president today, he would sign the bipartisan border bill. And then all of his fans and followers would say, wow, he did a great thing. Well, this can be done now. It should have been done a long time ago. It was already written, it was already done. So by the fact that you know that he is doing this on purpose to hurt people and to actually use the ignorance of Trump supporters to sit back and go, well, nothing's getting done. Well, when you know the fact of that he is the one holding it back to cause the problem, why would you vote for a person like that? Unless, of course, you enjoyed that problem and you don't really care much about immigration. Here's the other part about it. Do you really think he cares about legal or illegal immigration? Because here's the thing. He's been complaining about these Haitian immigrants who are 100% completely legal. And in knowing that, he's still destroying Springfield, Ohio, and some of these other places here by bad-mouthing them and putting them in danger. And people are starting to do, they had bomb threats on the schools there. Now, you're supposedly running for president and you're causing this kind of damage in the United States, and you're doing it over legal immigrants. Legal. Now, what's the difference there? Oh, that's right, they're black. I forgot, right? Like, again, you need to really check your morals and virtues and values. If you think that he's winning this debate here by doing these horrible things, by not fixing the problem, and again, if you needed to hear it, there's a lot of places you can find it, but find a right-wing segment here of like cato.org, and they'll tell you that legal immigration slowed down. Illegal immigration did not. So you don't need to know more than that. You want to know about deportations, if that's your thing? Obama had more deportations than Trump. Now, I'm not talking about the 8 years compared to 4. If you take any of that 4-year segment of Obama, he was deporting more people. So if deportation is your thing, then why are you saying Trump is so great when he did less deportations than Obama did? What's going on here? Do you know how to follow facts, data, anything like that? You should before you have an opinion on something. Let me throw this in too. Just the other day, there's been another lawsuit against Trump, the Central Park Five, just in case you didn't think he was racist. I mean, already back in the 80s, he already got in trouble because he wouldn't sell or rent to black people. And so he got in trouble for that. With the Central Park Five, they were exonerated. But he's still saying that they should be executed. Now, why would he say that? Well, because they're black people, of course. And so this is the problem that he always has. And if you're trying to be president of the United States, we're built on immigration. Now, you shouldn't be calling people that are coming over the border, they're rapists and murderers and drug dealers and everything else, because that's obviously not true. Let's continue with this. I think I'm going to try to cut it a little bit because he doesn't really listen to her and he's not really going with what she's saying. He's just trying to slam down this overly emotional thing about these people who died, which is a terrible thing, and no one's going to say anything different. But if you really want to look at people who are dying, look at the women right now that are in about 20 different states where they can't get care, right, because of the abortion ban. You know, there's people dying there too, and, you know, let's talk about that. All right, here we go.
The pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure.
All right, let's skip through this because they're just trying to hammer this for their supporters who just love talking about immigration, but it's never been a problem, even though the border has always been a problem a little bit. But now they hammer it like it's the number one issue. And the truth is that they didn't do anything to fix it. And actually, they made it worse because there's less legal immigrants coming here who would really help out our society. I mean, listen, use your own anecdotal evidence. I mean, when you go to like doctors now, most of them are from foreign countries. So these are the types of people that don't want to come here anymore because we're not being America anymore. Let me try to fast forward this to at least a different question. They spent about 10 and a half minutes on this garbage.
All right, so listen up. State Farm was trying to charge
And
me
of course, you got to hit a
$197
commercial. I'll
for
stop this in a
cars.
second
No, thank
here.
you.
Legally, and I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So, are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed.
Let me stop you right there for a second. Of all the things that affect people in this world, they've got this obsession with transgender and gay people and stuff. Then you wonder why transgender and gay people are so afraid of Republicans, right? So here's the thing. It affects like 0% of people, right? Like 0.00 something. I actually voted tonight. And one of the ladies stopped me. And she said, oh, yeah, I need to talk to you, whatever. And she handed me a card. And on it said, she said, I need you to vote for me. And on it, it said, stop schools from teaching transgender lifestyle. I'm like, well, they don't do that. So I took her card. I went in there because it was actually a nonpartisan role that she was looking for, a nonpartisan position. But I took the card. And I took the card because I needed to see the name, and whoever ran against her, I voted against her. That's what I did. And I just don't understand this obsession with this transgender thing. They're making it like it's this big deal. I don't know if I've ever even met somebody who has had a sex change operation. I can't even think. No, I can't. And probably most people can't either. And what she says here is very interesting because what is true, and I'm going to say it just in case you don't want to hear her voice, you have to hear mine, but people in jail are entitled to medical care. And by whatever law or reason, I don't know the laws, but transitioning is part of medical care, or it's considered to be. So in the medical community, and again, if you're not in the medical community, then stay out of the conversation, right? Like you don't have a say. So, but that's the thing. So when she says Donald Trump followed the same law, how interesting that they're going to spend $20 million on an ad that tries to somehow indict or put down Kamala Harris to think that she's some type of weirdo, like this crazy human. But for you Trump supporters out there, Trump followed the same law. You need to know that. He followed the same law. So $20 million, it did sell people that like Trump. But in fact, he did the same thing. But of course, you can justify that somehow. I don't know how you can logically do that, but you can try. Let's continue.
You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition
Well,
surgeries
you got to
happened
take
during
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
administration.
Yeah, no.
So again, they followed the same policy. And then they're going to say, well, no gender transitions happened during. Well, that doesn't matter, right? Because they're so rare. And it didn't happen because Trump didn't want it to happen. And it didn't happen because Republicans said that they didn't want it to happen. It didn't happen because it never came up. There wasn't a medical need to do it, as there probably is no medical need to do it now. The amount of people this affects might be like 5. I mean, I don't know. It's probably such a super low amount. But even this, he can't admit that he got caught lying. Because you can't sit there, and he actually played the commercial to push it again for free. that this whole thing is thrown on her like she is, out there, but Trump did the same thing. Let's continue.
Surgeries happened in this
It's
presidency.
in
So
black and white.
would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just as I
But you have a
think
say
Donald
in
Trump would
this.
say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
On
it was
plans for
different,
the
but
American
we'll
people,
move on.
I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker,
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people say-
inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people?
Let me stop it there. Because what you're going to hear is they're going to say that she doesn't put up any plans. She doesn't say anything new. She doesn't give an idea. She talks about Trump, but she doesn't say what she's going to do. And here you see another laundry list of things that she wants to do. And it separates her from Joe Biden. So you're going to hear, too, that her presidency would be no different than Joe Biden. No, she constantly gives a laundry list of things that she's going to do. It's just these people act like they don't hear it. Let's move on.
People say they trust him on the economy, then they trust you.
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week.
Let me stop it right there because she said a lot of things and he just acts like it didn't happen. Okay, so it is a good question. Why do people trust Trump with the economy? That's kind of a trick question because, well, I would think it is. She answered it really well. Because if it was me and you asked me, why do people trust Trump with the economy? I would say I have no idea. And like she said, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, 16 Nobel laureates, most legitimate economists all agree with her plan. So you have to be really trying a lot to disappear from actual facts in order to think that Trump's plan would be better. And when you look at it, and she didn't say this, but since World War II, there's been 51 million jobs created in the United States. 50 million were created during a Democratic administration, only 1 during a Republican. And continuing with that, there's been 10 recessions since World War II. 9 of them were under, again, a Republican. So if you look at it over and over again, and she said it in a very nice way, she said something to the effect of people who know, people who look into this. Basically, what she's saying is if you have any intelligence and you're an expert in the area, you do understand that Trump sucks as a businessman. He's got 6 different bankruptcies, also like 20 other businesses that failed. And also he put the United States in debt. And his economy, he took over that economy that was already humming and working very well for 7 years. He took it over. And then it got trashed during COVID. Should you blame him completely for that? Probably not. But then you shouldn't blame Biden for a little bit of the destruction that happened with inflation after COVID. So this is where they play games. The other part to that is that we had we were in the top 3 worst responders to COVID. Why? Because he was telling people things like horse dewormer works for COVID. He said COVID would disappear. It's not that big of a deal. And he talked about bleach and all these other things of stupidity. And we reacted like a third world country, and we reacted like a bunch of people that have no intelligence, that don't follow the science. So now if you're a big Trump supporter, you just sit there and you would rather die of COVID than you would admit to that the science was correct, pretty much all the way through. All right, now let's see where he goes.
What, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden? Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden,
I know.
and so that would be one change in terms of. But also, I think it's important to say, with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
This holster has a retail value of $80.
All right, another commercial. I'll get rid of this in 2 seconds.
As our way of saying thank you.
So, you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very.
Okay, so this puts her on the spot again to be the angry woman. Let me tell you what's going on here. Number one, that first question, would you have done anything different, with the Biden-Harris administration? First of all, she's not the decision maker. You're putting her in a position where she has to start bad-mouthing her, the president, right? She works for him. So she's not in the capacity of a vice president going to sit there and put him down. That's not going to happen. She's there to be his cheerleader, just like every other vice president has. Even J.D. Vance, if you ask him who won the election, he's going to toss and turn and do everything possible, and he's not going to say what he already knows, that Trump lost that last election. He can't say that. So you're putting her in a position here that she can't really answer that question. That's number one. She's not going to put down Joe Biden. That's not going to happen. The other part is they played a little trick here on the tape, because it says, like, I'm not going to change anything and I'm just not him. That's not true. She's already given you a laundry list of things that she wants to do for the middle class. And what they don't say on here is that if they continue the tape, she says that she's into all good ideas, and she's definitely open to having Republicans in her cabinet so we can bring America together. And this is what good people actually want. She also talks about expanding Medicare to be able to handle home care. So if you're in a position where you're a little bit older and you have kids that you have to take care of, but you also have parents that you might have to take care of, they're going to have that to where you're going to be able to do that. There's going to be home health care. These things are extremely important. There's other things she's talking about. So it's in bad faith to say that she's not saying that she would change anything. And by the way, it's also hard for her to say all the things that she would have changed. And I'll tell you why. Because all the economic indicators are good. The stock market is breaking records by the day. You have unemployment is extremely low. There's job creation that's just booming. So what is wrong here? The only thing that's wrong is high prices, but who's responsible for that? It's corporations with corporate greed and monopolies. Those are the main things. Also, what you can add to that is that what causes inflation is too much money chasing too much goods. So what is the cause of inflation? It's when the economy's too good. That's what the problem. That's why they raise the interest rates, to shut down the economy a little bit. But she can't say that because there's a lot of people who are hurting out there. And why are they? Part of it is again, corporations screwing people. That's number one. Number two, though, what happens is when you believe in trickle-down economics, like the Republicans have, and they've been putting this into place, and it's been very hard to change it, even when there is a Democrat in office, that the money goes to the top. People that need labor and unions The unions are disappearing left and right, and this is what's happening. It's gutting out the middle class. So what we're having is a lot of people with a select few people with money at the top, and then a whole bunch of poor people over here, and a lot of people struggling. There's not a good, viable middle class anymore, thanks to Republican policies. But she can't come out and say all this. Let's continue.
Very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to...
Then he throws in, we've heard a lot about those plans the last few days, but then he says that nothing's going to be changing. So again, a lot of Fox viewers listen to this and they go, oh, she's not going to change anything. Well, what are you talking about? She has a massive laundry list of great things for the middle class. Now, let's fast forward, right? Because she is competing against somebody, Donald Trump. What is his plan? Oh, that's right. He wants to give corporations a tax cut. So again, I went to go vote today, and there were these signs, and it says, oh, Trump tax cut. Yeah, not for you. Not for you. Only big corporations, billionaires, and millionaires. That's it. Not for you, unless you are a billionaire, which I doubt. There's very few of those. So again, these are very bad faith questions because he's not honoring even any of her answers, because there was a lot of great stuff in there that could help a lot of young people or people that are just trying to get a start, like first-time home buyers and things like this. Let's continue here.
To turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years, so what are you turning the page from?
Why did Amazon send me $20,000?
Another commercial. I don't know how to get rid of this. I got to wait it out.
AI. I'm going to show you.
There we go.
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about turning the
pollsters,
page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
more than
People are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And
Let me answer part of that, because I actually agree with that. 79% of people say the country is on the wrong track. All right, I'm obviously a Democrat. I'm obviously going to vote for Kamala Harris. I still say the country's on the wrong track. Now, why do I say this? Well, from as an American citizen and as a marriage and family therapist, let me speak. What I would say is that this country is in an absolute mental health crisis. I mean, I see anxiety and depression all the time. Again, I'll mention it. I went to go vote today. There was a life-size cardboard cutout of Donald Trump, and there were guys going up to it, saluting it. You're saluting a guy that got 6 deferments from the military. You are saluting a guy that, first of all, he's not a god. by the way. It's disgusting. I've never seen such things like this. Like, men are turning into infants, and the women that I talk to, most of them would tell you that. There's a large amount of men out there that are decidedly not working. They're living at home. They sit home, they masturbate all day, they watch video games, they smoke marijuana. And any money that they might save from something, I don't know, most of them seem to be on welfare, yet they complain about it. You know, they want to like buy a decent car here or there. So they can drive around in that and act like they have something. I know plenty of guys I see at work, and they're all Trumpsters and stuff like this. I know 3 guys that they have a Lamborghini, except they all share it. So they act like they're rich guys, what they would call gangsta, and none of them are that. They're all a bunch of spineless babies, and that's what we're seeing over and over again. It's okay now to argue. It's okay to be devaluing people. It's okay to be disgusting with people. It's okay to lie on a regular basis. It's okay to look at somebody like Donald Trump and think he's the greatest thing ever when he's probably the most vile, unintelligent loser of a human. And they try to make it like he's sane. It's because so many people now are just trying to make money, so they don't tell you how cognitively deficient this guy is or how dangerous. We're looking at social media these days where everybody is trying to get social media famous and they're not trying to actually do real things. I heard that again not so long ago. Someone was like, oh, I bought this book from this YouTuber and they're good at psychology. No, they're not. They're an 18-year-old hack that does things. And I could tell you, the people that are really good at psychology, that are doing the work, they're busy working. Like me, I'm doing this show at like 10 o'clock at night. I was up at 4:15 this morning, and I got to be up at 4:15 tomorrow as well. Like, I have work to do. I got a full boatload of clients. I have over 170 people on my waiting list. Like, I don't have all day long to sit there and act like I'm famous. I just do the work. And there's a lot of people who do that. So is the country on the wrong track? Absolutely it is. We have this thing now where everybody argues. People hear a fact and they just run away from it just because, and they like this guy. I have no idea. Through kids being associated and being introduced to video games and everything else by the time they're 5 years old, which the World Health Organization says you shouldn't be doing that at all, kids are losing the ability to talk to people. Boys have no idea how to communicate with girls. And this world is getting worse and worse by the day. But this has nothing to do with the 3.5 years, by the way, that Kamala Harris was vice president. And by the way, when he keeps saying, what have you done the last 3.5 years? Well, she's done what every other vice president has ever done since the beginning of time in the United States. They support their presidents. And that's what they do. Whereas what she's hinting to here is that in the last 9 years, it's been this wave of this Trumpism, this MAGA thing that is bringing back racism. I mean, when you look up the numbers, it's staggering. Since Trump has been in office, there's been like a 900% increase in white supremacist groups. When he talks about the evil or the threat from within the United States, look that up too. The biggest threat is white supremacy. But he doesn't talk about that. But those are his fans. Those are his supporters. I'm not saying that every Republican is a white supremacist or a racist or a misogynist. But what I would say is every white supremacist, racist, and misogynist is in the Republican Party. They have no place in the Democratic Party. Let's continue with this.
Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on. You and I both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what
She's
I'm
trying to put him down without saying it. That's why she said it like that.
Over the last decade, people have become. But listen,
I want to buy your house. I can pay you cash for
Another
your house.
commercial.
No matter
Right
what
now, I'll
condition
get
it's
rid of
in.
it.
over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead
Vice
of
President.
the American people?
Let me stop it right there because again, I'm in agreement with 100%. If you're not in agreement with that, there's, sorry, but there's something wrong with you. I'm trying not to use the word stupid anymore, but Donald Trump uses it on a regular basis, and it's okay for him. Again, when did it become normalized for somebody trying to overthrow the United States, and then all of a sudden he's like a leading candidate to be president again? Like, when did that happen? We used to think about Nixon as being this horrible human being, and what he did is nothing compared to what Donald Trump has done. And he's talking about doing all these other crazy things. He couldn't care less about the Constitution. And there's a bunch of people backing him up, too. I mean, lately we have to deal with him making all of these false statements about the hurricane and everything else. And people, he gets in the way and he's harming people all over the place. And nobody cares. It's like, when did we become this thing where we could say, his values and virtues suck, but I'm going to vote for him anyway because I think he's entertaining? Because you can't say his policies were better because there's nothing to show there. He didn't follow through on anything other than giving tax breaks to the rich. That's about it. And then now we got to hear about Arnold Palmer's penis for like 11 minutes. And the other day he's swaying back and forth for like 40 minutes during his a rally or whatever that was. I didn't even know it was. I mean, if Joe Biden did that, everybody would say that there's obviously cognitive problems there. When Donald Trump does it, these Trump supporters, they're just so weird. And they're so religious, and he's the most unreligious person ever. So yeah, the country's going in the wrong direction, but they're the reason for it. Let's see what else she says.
Well,
If
people
that's the
are
case,
tired of that.
if that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a
So
cakewalk
are they
for
misguided,
anyone.
the 50%?
Listen,
Are they stupid?
Oh
What
God,
is it?
I would never say that about the American
See, they know they're
people. And
stupid.
in
That's
fact,
why
if you
he
listen
said
to
that.
Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within.
And this is why she's a good
Enemy
presidential
within.
candidate, because she
Talking
doesn't
about
take the
the
bait to say that
American
they're
people.
stupid.
Suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question too.
Let me stop it right there. I'm going to answer the thing that she could not answer. Why are these people misguided? You're trying to do the best. I know that there's Trump supporters that are, they enjoy the pain. They enjoy putting people down. They have that anger. They like to see this. But here's the actual truth that she can't say too. Part of the problem is Brett Baier. Part of the problem is Fox News with their constant lying and propaganda 24 hours a day. What happens is if you're watching Fox News, and they've done studies on this, the more you watch Fox News, the less informed you become because you're not actually watching the news. You're watching a bunch of lies. A lot of the stuff that she's saying here, I don't know if people are really going to listen to it on Fox News, but it's the first time that they're actually hearing it. They heard how stupid she was and how ignorant and how she can't put a sentence together. And they're looking at Donald Trump, and now they're looking at her, and she's amazingly eloquent, and she's obviously extremely intelligent. So does it matter now? I don't know. So they keep sane washing him on that show. If you want to have like another reason why these people, like he's mentioned, are they stupid or are they misinformed? You're the one misinforming them. And if I don't know the exact number, actually it's about $780 million that they were sued for because they were lying about the election. Now, their defense during this was that they're not a news station, they're an entertainment station. So if you're getting your news and you're loving Donald Trump, and do you not understand that Fox News even went to court to tell people that they weren't a news station, that they are entertainment only, that none of what they have to say, they're not held to any standard to tell the truth, and they're not. So if you're believing this, you might as well watch Saturday Night Live for that matter, because this is not a news station. But she's forced to go on here because so many of these people watch this garbage. So again, what's the answer to, are these people misguided or stupid? If you want to be nice, you don't say that they're stupid, but they are misguided because of this particular Fox News is lying to them constantly. And they're going to lie again. Let's see.
The former president today, Harris Faulkner, had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true.
This is weird too, how he looks up to, he calls him Alphonse Capone. Here you go, a guy that's known for stealing, the guy that's known for murder, I believe a guy who died of syphilis by the time he was 50 years old. But these are the kind of guys that he looks up to. And I see a lot of young men at the gym going, yeah, again, like I said, he's gangsta. Yeah, but he's a loser all the way through, and he doesn't have any policies to help people. All he does is want to, push himself. And by the way, again, he was gifted over $413 million in his life from his father.
No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump...
the significance of that.
You call Donald Trump... he's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you.
Let me stop it there. It's an incredible thing, if you're thinking about voting for Donald Trump, to know that many of the people who worked for him, they're in jail now. And Trump would be in jail too if he wasn't running for president. The other thing that she's saying is that the closest people to him, about half of the people that work close with Donald Trump, will not vote for him. So if you're still voting for him, you got to think, like, what's wrong with you, right? Like, do you think all of these people in the military are saying that he's fascist to the core, that he's unfit? Do you think that they're not telling the truth? Or why do you only believe Trump, who's never really done anything decent in his life anyway? All of a sudden, we're going to believe him over everybody. And the other thing that happened here that really we have to note is that he lied. Bret Baier lied. If he had any credibility as a journalist before, even a shred, he lost it all here. Actually, the way he was running this whole debacle, he has no integrity. But this for sure, because he was trying to say that Donald Trump didn't say all the things that Kamala Harris was saying. In other words, they're going to turn the United States itself against the enemy within, which is its own American citizens who disagree with Donald Trump. And he plays this offhanded video that had nothing to do with what Kamala Harris was talking about. And she dressed him down immediately and actually was very aggressive here. But she did it in a very, almost a calming, teacher-like way to a child that is messing up. And for the record, Bret Baier, the day after, offered an apology. Now, what happens is that 7 million people watch this at first, and then the apology, nobody sees it. And so it's a garbage apology. And the other part of the apology that doesn't work is that he said they put up the wrong tape. Well, if that's true, then you heard it, just like we all did. And you knew that that was the wrong tape. So now you're saying that you could have just said, oh, stop, that wasn't the right one. Let's play the one that you're talking about, where he does with that. He says it. Actually, Kamala Harris plays those tapes at her rallies, saying exactly what Donald Trump says, and he says that he He's going after different Democrats. He said going after Nancy Pelosi and all these other people. So it is true that it happened. It's also true that Brett Baer did not play that tape. So when you're watching this and you're trying to figure out who to vote for, listen, you really got to get your head examined if you think that this is an okay thing to do. They're lying and playing wrong tapes, and she rightly, in a very strong, powerful way, checked him hard and dressed him down, which is what she should do. I'm getting really tired. I got to get up at 4 a.m. here. So let me see if we want to continue this. I think maybe just for a minute.
And we should
Many
all be
interviewers
concerned.
that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President?
Okay, so he's going to try to put in there that she should have said something that somehow Biden was cognitively impaired. This has no bearing on this election. She is running for president. Joe Biden is not. That's why the Democrats made the decision to put her in and take him out. When you see Donald Trump and the way he talks and what he's doing, they should actually do the same thing. There's something wrong with that guy. It's very obvious. He can't put a sentence together. He has no policies to speak of. The other day, he even said, don't you want to vote for the white guy? You definitely don't want to vote for a black woman. Definitely vote for the white guy. Like, I mean, come on. He doesn't have the ability anymore to even hold it in. Now he's saying things out loud that even before he probably felt, but he didn't. He had a way of saying it that would at least hide it from people. Now he's just being fascist outright and to the core. So I think I'm going to end it right there. I think you know how I feel about this. And honestly, there's really not a lot of other opinion you can have because there's facts and then there's fake garbage that Brett Baer was trying to push out there. As a quick review, if I can do this, crime is going down. So let's not really fuss about that too much. And in terms of immigration, again, Trump did lower immigration, but he lowered legal immigration. And in terms of illegal immigration, nothing happened. It was the same basic thing. It increased a little bit more, but the reason for that is because they can't get enough people to process those people through. Why is that? Well, because he doesn't want the border bill passed. So again, come on now. He's like an arsonist. He keeps causing problems, and then he calls the firemen and think that he's the one who's helping. That's not happening here. And the economy right now is doing very well. Let's talk about that. Oh. Anyway, let me end it at that. It's almost an hour, and I got to get to bed. So my name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.